Welcome to Season 3 of Unlock Your Child's Full Potential, where we focus on the mindset shifts, practical tools, and strategies that empower us to positively and effectively influence our kids. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with Matt O'Neill, a happiness coach, author, and host of the Good Mood Revolution podcast. As a father of 4, Matt has made it his mission to help parents develop happiness as a skill, especially during life's most challenging moments. In this episode, we dive into the 8 primary bad moods we all experience as human beings. Matt explains how these moods show up in us and our kids, how to recognize them, and most importantly, how to counteract them. He also shares practical, actionable steps to help us strengthen our happiness muscle. Whether you're navigating stress, dealing with parenting struggles, or simply looking to bring a little more joy into your days, Matt offers practical tools you can start using right away. Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Billy? So excited to be here today.
Me too. Can you start by telling us more about yourself? I know you're a father of 4, and I'm curious, how has choosing happiness influenced your family life?
So you know this, and every parent knows this. When we bring the happiness, when we're authentically joyful and we have our energy about us and we've got our joy, our children respond so well. They love it. And we can turn any childhood disruption around if our energy is playful enough and fun enough and high enough. It's only when my energy drops and I'm frustrated about something at work or another challenge is there or I'm just in a bad mood that then when my child's going through something challenging that I might snap or that I might not respond in the right way. And then it spirals and the whole evening can spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So our ability to model the happiness that we want to see in our children is the key, in my opinion, to raising really happy children.
Yeah, it all starts with us.
It all starts with us and who we are, who we're showing up as. I've got an 11-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old daughter, very similar to you, with 11, 9, and 6. And then we've got a 3-year-old son. And it's challenging. Raising children is challenging. It starts challenging because we used to have all this freedom. And then now we've got this little baby to take care of, and some of our freedom goes away. And then it continues to progressively get more challenging. So now we're in the stage where there's cheerleading practice or cross-country practice or basketball practice or acrobatics or something every single night, plus the meets on the weekends. And our time gets compressed and compressed and compressed. And if we're not purposefully bringing our best self, it can harm us.
What I find challenging with the girls is the changing emotions. Like, I'm happy, but they're focusing on the negative right now, and they're kind of ruining my mood at some point. How can parents choose happiness in the midst of all those heightened emotions?
Our 11-year-old has a lot of emotions. And she'll come down in a mood. I'll have the other 3 and we're making breakfast. We're singing the music that's on, and Cameron, my 9-year-old's getting the water bottles ready for school, and Kelly's setting out the napkins, and Brady's eating his cereal. And then Harper will come down in like one of those funks. And then she'll say something sideways to Kelly. And then Kelly's exasperated and she's crying. Then she says something to Cameron, and now Cameron's pouting. And then it's like she wants to bring us all down in that moment to how she's feeling. And I'm like, oh, it was going so well. Everything was so great. And now Harper's come in. Well, I can tell you what not to do.
Okay, that's good too.
Your paradigm shift, the very first step in your parenting style, I totally agree with. And that paradigm shift is when our children are behaving in a way, maybe we're not delivering them something that they need. What I found with Harper is that when she's feeling that way, she's feeling rejected. Now, she's come down feeling rejected. No one rejected her. I just know my daughter at this point to know that when she comes down in that mood, there's something, some thought has triggered in her mind where she feels rejected. It may have been as simple as everyone was having so much fun without her. And now she feels like she's not as special as the other children. So at first, I tried to correct the behavior, and that didn't work because as I corrected the behavior, hey, Harper, we're all having fun. You can too. You have this choice, right? This was my wise parenting thought. I'll just tell her to have fun with us. What did that make her feel though? As I told her that she wasn't having as much fun as us,
Even more rejected.
even more rejected. And then what would she do when she felt more rejected? She would act out more. She would double down. She'd dig her heels in more into this mood that she was having. This went on for months until I finally understood that she was really just dealing with this wound of rejection. And with her, very specific, anytime she's in that mood, I ask myself, how could she be feeling rejected right now? And now the opposite of rejection is acceptance. So she needs to know, I fully accept you. I fully accept you in whatever mood you're choosing. You're accepted. You're part of all of this. If you choose to be in that energy, it's not our favorite energy, but you're accepted and loved exactly as you choose to be. Now she's 11, so she's smart and she's old enough and mature enough I can talk to her like a normal human instead of my 3-year-old that, I still try to talk to like a normal human, but he's still 3. But with Harper, I don't want to call her out in front of everybody. I don't want to say this in front of everybody. I might pull her aside, and this is how I handle it. Is I'll say, "Hey, just can I talk real quick?" And I'll say, "Hey, I just want you to know you're totally loved and accepted. I can tell you're dealing with some things this morning. Anything you want to talk about?" She'll do the shoulder shrug. She won't say anything in that mood. And I'll say, it's totally fine. If you want to talk, I'm here. If you don't want to talk, I'm here. I just want you to know you are loved, you are accepted. I'm going to make you some breakfast. What do you want for breakfast? If there's no answer, I'll say, I'm going to pick. I got some other things to do, so I'll make you something. Hopefully you'll like it, but you're loved. And then bring her in. Now, what happens is at this point, she's been accepted, which is what she wants and what she needs, because rejection is her wound. When you have a wound of rejection, this is just how emotions work. You do things so that then people reject you because you already feel rejected and you want to prove that you're rejectable. So that when she was saying the sideways comment to her 6-year-old sister, she was asking for me to say, that's not appropriate. We don't act that way, which
And
was
that's
more
exactly what we
rejection.
do most of the time. Yeah.
So now I notice that you have to be very aware as a parent, what's the emotional state of each of my children? And then if the emotional state is this feeling of rejection, and like, how would you know it's a feeling of rejection? There's only 8 negative moods. In my book, Good Mood Revolution, I describe the 8 negative moods. There's only 8 ways we can feel bad. Rejection is the first of those 8 ways. It's the emotion of shame. It's I'm rejectable. I'm not enough. I'm not as good as, yeah, I'm not lovable. These are all the wounds of shame. It's the wound of rejection. That whole story is a really deep and dark story. It's not true. You're like, who rejected her? Nobody rejected her. But this is what I'm saying is that she could just come down and see everyone's having fun, and that wound can be triggered, that she wasn't part of it. Once we see that there's only 8 negative moods and we identify which one it is, we just say, well, what's the cure to that? Well, the cure to rejection is acceptance, and that's how you cure it.
Let's tell people about the other 7.
Yeah, so the next one is guilt. And we are the ones who guilt our children. Guilt is judgment. So perhaps we all had somebody that judged us. We did. It was our parents. They judged us.
Yeah.
They told us that some things were good and some things weren't. I was listening to one of your episodes where you talked about a child spilling juice all over important papers. And it might have been the 3rd time this week they've spilled things. And we'll say, could you just be a little more careful? That's judgment. And the wound of judgment turns into guilt. And then with guilt, they think they deserve punishment and they're not good. It is very important that we are constantly aware that our children are doing the very best they can at all times.
Yeah.
And if they
And
spill
assume good
juice,
intent. Yeah.
they always have. My kids want to please us so much. Unless they're dealing with one of these wounds, in which case they want the wound to manifest, which is reject me, please, for the wound of rejection. In the wound of judgment, if we're super judgy on our kids, they'll give us more reasons to judge them because they'll
Mm.
feel like they deserve to be punished and that they're bad kids. How we counteract that is we know they're always doing the best they can. And that when they spill something or when they make a mistake or if they don't bring home a good grade or they forgot to do their homework or they didn't clean their room or whatever it is, judgment's not the way. They want to do the best they can. They're doing the best they can. So rather than judgment, we want to offer them love, support, appreciation. I have dogs. I love dogs. Training a dog is all positive reinforcement. If you beat your dog, which I've done, you smack your dog and this is how they're going to learn. And there used to be this philosophy that the leader of the pack will bite the other dog. And so we'll be the leader of the pack. And that's how you train a dog. They actually get trained so much faster with positive reinforcement, treats, and appreciation. Our children are the exact same way. They learn so much faster and perform at such a higher level with positive appreciation, treats, and love. And when we beat them physically or emotionally with guilt, they actually revert.
I totally agree. And does it get overwhelming to cater to all the needs of your four children at the same time? Because I have
Yeah.
those overwhelming moments.
Yeah,
I
of
know what to
course.
do, but my nervous system is not available at that moment.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. And this is why I said the most important thing is our happiness and our light. So when we're overwhelmed, that's actually the third negative mood is overwhelm.
Mm.
So we've talked about the rejection and then the judgment, and then overwhelm is the third negative mood. When we're overwhelmed, we're not in our happiness. And when we're not in our happiness, I have a tendency to snap, to yell, to judge, to condemn, to say that's not good enough. When I do that, I know I'm harming my child and not helping them. So it's very important that we take care of our needs first. We know that when the plane is going down, the oxygen mask comes down. It says, put your oxygen mask on first and then attach your child's oxygen mask. Why do they tell us to do it that way? It's because if all we do is attend to our child's needs at the expense of our own and we die, we can't put anything on. We're no longer available. So if we don't attend to our own light, if we don't do the things that light us up, if we don't have time for a bath or for a massage or for our exercise or for our reading time or our prayer time or our meditation time, if we don't have time to fill up our cup, we have nothing to give them. So it's very important that we don't run ourselves so low that our light goes out, because when our light goes out, we're out of service.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, what about number four? I'm really curious to hear all about all of the moods.
Yes. Yeah. So with overwhelm, that number three, our children get overwhelmed too. It's this feeling that it's kind of hopelessness, that it's just too much. I just can't handle it all. What we do at that point is we need a lot of support. And so as a parent, if we're overwhelmed, we need some support. When I get overwhelmed, I'm like, Katie, I'm overloaded. And she knows. And she's like, I've got it. Like, hey, why don't you go? Maybe you need to rest for a little bit. And she'll
That's your
take care of it.
spouse,
And
Katie.
yes, Katie.
Hmm.
And when she's overloaded and I'll notice it, I can see her light going out and she's there doing the dishes. And I'll come up and I'll put my hands on her shoulders and I'll say, you haven't taken a shower today. So how about how about this? I'll do the dishes. I'll do bedtime. Why don't you take a shower, kid free, just to yourself, all to yourself? And she'll say, "Oh, but you're so," and I'm like, "But this is where when we're overwhelmed, we need help and we need support." My mom lives close too. And so we'll call on my mom. We'll say, "Hey, could you run to practice? Today, my daughter needed to go to the doctor. She's had a cough for 3 weeks." And my mom went to practice last night with one of my daughters. And then we asked her if she could come back today and she could watch our youngest so we could go to the doctor. So we need support. We need help. And sometimes we feel like as parents, we don't have help. That's just a fallacy. There's help we can get everywhere. There's people that can carpool with us. There's other parents that can help us, that we can make friends. We will get the help with it we look for.
Yeah,
The
just get
next,
creative.
yeah, get creative. Whatever we ask for, we'll find. We will. There's a neighbor that can help. There's that retired person that lives on your street that's looking for something to do that we can hire part-time that would love it. There's the neighborhood kid that can help. There's help if we want it. The story that I'm all on my own, that's just a story of overwhelm. It's not true. The next negative mood is sadness. And we know this with daughters. At least
Hmm.
I do.
I do too.
And the sadness will show up and they can just be sad. And maybe someone isn't liking them today or somebody didn't include them in something and they feel sad. And as parents, we can feel sad sometimes too. We can feel sad that maybe our parents or our children are sad. The key to sadness is to know that there's a counteraction to it and it's gratitude.
Oh, yeah. I love gratitude practice. Every night before I go to bed, I'm just thinking through my day and looking for little things to be grateful for. And it just becomes a habit. During the day, I'm looking for those things to have something to say to myself in the evening. So it's a great practice.
Everyone should do that, what you do. So follow Billy. This is the perfect counteraction. And our kids don't do what we say, they do what we do.
They do what
So
they see.
they do what they see. So they see you practicing gratitude, they become grateful. And that the counteraction to sadness is gratitude because we're sad that things didn't go the way we wanted them to, but we're grateful that things are the way that they are. We're grateful for some things today and sad for some things today. We counteract the things that didn't go the way we wanted them to with the things that we're happy about. And that's gratitude. So that's when we have a gratitude practice like you have. And for me, I bring my kids into it. So we pray before every meal together as a family. And our prayer starts with a prayer of gratitude. God, thank you so much for our gifts. Thank you for our health. Thank you for Brady being so funny today. We'll name out specific things and we'll say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm doing this on purpose to train them how to be grateful. And then I don't always say the prayer. Sometimes I'll say, hey, Cameron, could you say the prayer tonight? And then she's saying gratitude for all of us. And so this is a way that I teach them to be
I
grateful
loved
too.
it. I love it because I don't say it in front of my kids, so I'm not really modeling it. And I love the way you do.
Well, you're modeling it because you're living it and they see you. The next negative mood is definitely one that this is Katie's signature bad mood. If she's going to get into one of these eight, is anxiety or fear. And a lot of times moms will worry.
It's a common one. Yeah.
It's not my go-to, but of course I know fear and anxiety and worry as well. It's just not, a lot of times it's not the man's primary negative emotion. We'll get to that one. But for a lot of moms, worry is the one. And it was for my mom too. She was always worried about me. And this is good. It's a positive thing. All of these bad moods have some positive aspects to them. We just don't want to stay in it, you know? And so when our child is worried or they're anxious, that's not a good thing. What we want to do with that worry is we want to say, what specifically am I worried about? What's the specific thing? Like I'll think of something that Katie would worry about. She's always worried about their safety. So we're about to travel and my son's still in a crib. He's staying in the crib longer than anyone, and we're not taking him out. Once he figures out that he can get out, then we'll do it. But for now, he's just in it. And we're going on vacation and there's no rails on the bed, like his crib has rails, and she's worried he could roll out of this bed and then break his head on something or break an arm and she's just worried about it. So the specific worry is my son could get hurt. Once we figure out what's my specific worry, we just ask this question, what specifically am I anxious about? What specifically am I afraid about? Then we could say, what can I do to make it better? So for Katie, she found a blow up rail. It rolls up, goes in our suitcase. You use your breath and you blow it up and you can put it underneath the sheet and then it'll prevent him from rolling off the bed. This is how we deal with fear or worry. And if our child is anxious, you be the model. We say, what specifically are you anxious about? And when they say, I'm anxious maybe about this test I have coming up, then the second question is, what can we do to help? What could you do that would make it better? This worry, this fear is showing up for a reason. It's trying to help you. It's trying to protect you. So you're afraid about the test coming up. What could we do? And I'll ask them. I won't give them the answer. I want them to think for themselves. What could you do? I don't know, Dad, study. Great. Would you like some help? I'm here. Do you want me to study with you? Okay. And then now we've solved it. That's all the worry wants. It just wants us to take some action because it's trying to protect us and help us.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, where are we? Number 5 or 6?
That was a lot of them. That was 5. There's just 3 more. The next is a tricky one because it's really helpful. They're all helpful, but we don't want to stay stuck in it. And our children will get stuck in this one, and us as adults, we will too. It's desire.
Is that a
Desire
negative one?
is a negative one and a positive one. The reason it's negative is that when we're desiring something, we're not actually joyful. So I'll tell you a little story about this. My wife and I wanted to take our kids to a fancy restaurant, our girls. Brady was staying home with my mom. We're like, it's going to be so nice. It's the nicest restaurant. This is where my wife and I go to anniversaries. It's this place called Fig in Charleston. I'm so excited. I booked reservations. It's a Friday night. And I'm like, oh, Katie, you could do a spa day with them. You could do their makeup. You could help them get in their pretty dresses. You could do their hair. But they couldn't appreciate the time with their mom looking beautiful. They were desiring already being at the restaurant. So that desire to get there, the anticipation to get there, disrupted Katie having this nice time and them having a nice time. We get there, and rather than just like taking in the beauty, it's a really beautiful space, and talking with us about the menu, they were so hungry. They're just desiring food. They just need food in front of them. They're like, as soon as I get food in front of me, then I'll be happy, right? It's basically desire is always saying, as soon as you get this thing, then you'll be happy. So I'm like, okay, fine. We'll rush through it. I'm like, waiter comes. I'm like, we need some appetizers ASAP. These kids are hungry. So we get some food and they're eating some food. But as they're eating the food, they're like, when's my steak going to be here? I want the steak. The steak gets there and they're already thinking about dessert. And then at dessert, they're so tired. They're like, could we watch a show when we get home? Can we watch TV when we get home? They're not enjoying the dessert. They're desiring what they're going to do when they get home.
Yeah, they're living in the future instead of enjoying the now.
That's desire. Desire is an insatiable emotion. And as we continue to desire and to desire and to desire, we delay our happiness, thinking the happiness will show up in the future, but happiness is only now.
I agree. Although we do need desire to set some goals and have a purpose of life, something to achieve.
Have to. It's a double edge. So we need to go into the future, set our goals, set our intentions. I desired to take my kids to this really nice restaurant, have this experience. I needed the desire to have that. And then we need to come back and be present. So we want to spend most of our time in the now, maybe a tiny little bit in the past, learning from it, gaining some things from it, a little tiny bit in the future. Maybe every single day we plan out what the day's going to look like and then come back and live as much as we can in the now. And then we'll stay out of that pesky emotion. You can just get lost in it. And I was lost for a decade in desire, constantly thinking, when I make this amount of money, when I get that house, when we have these children, then I'll be happy, then I'll be happy, then I'll be happy, delaying and delaying and delaying happiness and thinking life was a grind. It's not. That's the 6th. The 7th is one that a lot of men I know will go to, and that's anger. My dad was quick to anger. I was quick to anger. If I'm going to go into a bad place, it's going to be anger, frustration, annoyance. This will show up with our kids as well. A lot of times, my 3-year-old, he's frustrated things aren't happening the way he wants them. This morning, I made him cereal, and he's angry about it's the wrong cereal, and he's like screaming about it being the wrong cereal. So anger shows up all the time. It's also positive.
Say more about that, how it's anger positive.
Anger has so much energy for change. Sometimes we have to get angry before we finally do something that we need to do. A friend of mine, Alan, who I'm working with now, he's a nutritionist. He's my coach now. He had gotten to 300 pounds. and he was so overweight. And one day he was getting ready for work and he couldn't put his shoes on because his stomach was too big to bend over to get his shoes on. And at that moment, he got so angry that he let himself get like that he decided to become healthy.
Yeah.
So anger can be really positive when we use it to say, this isn't right and what could make it right. But we just don't want to unload our anger on other people. So if somebody's doing something we don't like, and then we're angry at them, like our children, right? They spill the juice. Getting angry that they spilled the juice, that's not going to be appropriate for our child. What could be appropriate if they've spilled the juice 3 times this week and we feel that anger like we're normal. This is the third time this week. Oh my gosh, I'm cleaning this juice up off of you and off of your clothes. I got to change your outfit now. We're busy. We got to get to school, like all this stuff. Then we could say, well, what could I do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're bringing the sippy cup back. That's what we're doing. Like, I
Yeah.
love you just for some time here. We're going to have you drink from the sippy cup just for some time. Or maybe if you don't like that and you feel like that's going to cause some wound of rejection, which we don't want to go to either, we could just say, the next time I set it down, I'm going to say, hey, let's be very intentional with this cup today. And we know as parents, I don't know if you do this all the time, but I am all the time. I'll notice a cup too close to an elbow room and I'll move the cup. Like as parents, we kind of see these things.
Yeah.
And so we learn too from things that make us angry. The last one is pride. Again, kind of a sneaky one because it seems so positive. We want to be proud of our kids. We want our kids to be proud of themselves. We want to be proud of ourselves as parents. But when we live proud, we live in an arrogance. Like we said, it's good to visit desire and create some plans and then come back to presence. It's good to feel proud of something we've accomplished. It's good to feel proud of our child. But if we are overly proud of our child, we could give them an inflated sense of who they are. And I don't know if you've ever known parents like that. I have, and I've seen kids that have
I've
whose
known
parents
the kids
and
of those parents.
the children don't have humility. So pride is ultimately negative when we stay there, just like desire is negative when we stay there. So we counteract pride with humility. And humility is just such a beautiful emotion because it says no one's really better than anyone. We're all doing the best we can. Everyone's valid. Everyone is special in different ways. Yes, my child is very special. Cameron runs cross country and she's
Ooh.
really fast. She just won the 5th fastest girl in the state of South Carolina for 9 and 10-year-olds. And
Wow, that's impressive.
I'm so proud of her. And Harper loves cheerleading. Harper's not as fast as Cameron, but she certainly can do a better handstand. And so Harper's special.
Everyone
And
has
then
their strength.
everyone does. Yeah, it's totally okay to be proud of ourselves. We just don't want to live in this pride where we think we're better than others. Cameron's faster than Harper. Harper can do better handstands than Cameron, but both have validity. And when we start to look at ourselves as we're better than others rather than noticing everyone is great, we live in a negative state.
That's when we're in trouble.
Mm.
Okay. I would like to give some practical tips for people. How do we create more happiness? How do we strengthen the happiness muscle? Some routines for our family life.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So we talked about a beautiful one and you demonstrated it. If our listener is not doing some daily gratitude, that's the very first place to start. It could be as simple as writing down 3 things every morning or every night you're grateful for. It could be, as you do at night, talking about the things that you're grateful for. It could be what we do, which is praying to God about the things we're grateful for before we eat. But that simple practice of gratitude is going to be the happiest, easiest way to get into happiness because there's so much to be happy about right now. We just have to count it, and we count it by gratitude. Another very happy practice is moving our bodies. My kids love Netflix. They love it. They want to lay on the couch and watch Netflix and play on an iPad. They think that's the happiest place that they could possibly be. It's not. As parents, we love our phones. We think that scrolling our phones is our happy place. It's not. My daughter was laying on the bed watching TV, playing her iPad. And my son was also playing iPad. They're not watching the TV. It's mindless. And I come in, I said, "Could we go for a walk?" This was last Wednesday. "No, Dad, I don't want to go for a walk. Oh, walk. Oh." It takes effort to move our bodies. But if we can move our bodies, I turned off the TV, I took the iPads, I said, "Let's go for a walk." It was beautiful outside. We went for a walk, we end up seeing the sunset. We come back, the joy is just overflowing. And I looked at Cameron and I said, "This was nicer than iPad time." And she said, "This was nicer than iPad time." Moving our body. So very simple. As a parent, we talked about how we need our happiness to be there first, to put on our oxygen masks first. I think some type of daily exercise, whether it's going for a walk, it's doing the yoga, it's lifting weights, it's playing a sport, something to move our bodies is going to bring a lot of happiness. And then we'll model that for our kids who also will move their bodies, and then they will be happier too.
I love these. Anything else?
Yeah, it's proven that being outside makes us happy. This can be challenging if we live in a climate that doesn't like us being outside. I grew up in Michigan, and my sister has got a lovely habit. She walks every night after she eats. Her and her husband, they go on a walk every night after dinner. It doesn't matter if it's sprinkling, if it's snowing, if it's dark, she goes on this walk. I love it. I don't do what she does, but it is awesome because it gets her outside and moving her body every single day. You look at any study, people that spend time outside, their happiness improves. So it's very simple, but getting outside. How do we do this in our busy life? At work, when I need a break, instead of just walking through the office, walk outside the office. At lunchtime, if you can, sit outside. My brother loves to do that. He'll drive his car and then he'll put the windows down and he'll eat sitting on the hood of his car or in his car. And he's just being outside, getting out of the office for a little bit. A lot of times we'll spend our life like going from artificial light in our house to artificial light in our office, back to artificial light in our house. But our bodies, our cells actually respond to the trees, to the wind, to the sun. And so getting outside is very important happiness habit, and teaching our kids how to do that, especially, man, kids, they love to spend, as we talked about, spend a lot of time on screen, but they'll be so much happier if we teach them this habit of getting outside. These are just simple things. It doesn't cost any money to move our bodies or get outside or do gratitude. It just takes a little bit of time. My favorite happiness habit, which has made the biggest impact in my life, is limiting my phone time.
Ooh, I love that. But there are some people who are really screen addicts. It's really difficult for them. And
Me. My name's Matt. I'm addicted to my screen.
my husband is as well.
So there's a dopamine that gets released when we get a new email, when we get a new like, when there's a new alert. It's just like a drug addiction. That dopamine that gets released when we get these new things, or we find something new on the internet, or we find a new story on social media, all of it just releases dopamine in our brains. So the designers of these apps understand that that is addicting, and they design social media apps to give us dopamine, just like cigarettes. However, it's also proven that social media, they call it doom scrolling for a reason, because it makes us feel bad. So if we want happiness, we have to separate ourselves from the drug of our phone. Here's how I do it. Airplane mode. Right next to my phone charger, it says airplane mode. I wrote on a little piece of paper, airplane mode, and I taped it next to my phone charger. I go to bed, I put it on airplane mode, and then in the morning, I wake up and my phone is on airplane mode when my alarm goes off. So I pick it up, I go to click the email, and it says, "Your phone's on airplane mode, silly. You can't get into email." I'm like, oh, I did that so I wouldn't do this right now. And then I set the phone back down. This gives me my morning to do some happiness habits rather than initially get into negativity from the phone. I've done this as well. I've turned it on airplane mode on the drive home from work so that I'm not on my phone making calls, or even worse, texting and driving, or reading my phone and driving, which could kill me. And then my kids wouldn't have a dad. That would be awful. Put it on airplane mode on the drive home from work so that when I walk in the house, my mind is already decompressing from the phone and I'm ready to actually have connection with humans again. And
I
then
love that. I always try to use car rides for something useful, like listening to a podcast or some course or something like that. But I love this preparing to get in connection with people at home.
Me too, right? How much do we need to cram in? We're so productive. We're so busy. We're getting so many things done. But is it making us happier? Human connection. We're talking about happiness habits. Actually being present with people we love is one of the happiest things we can do. So using the car ride to be intentional that I'm shutting it all off, and literally shutting it off. Sometimes I'll just take it and I'll turn the phone off on the way home. And I'm driving home and it's a black screen so that I can't just undo the airplane mode real quick, that it's done. And then I won't turn it back on until after dinner because I'm still addicted. So after dinner, after I put the kids to bed, after I read the book, now I'll go back to the phone and I'll check all the things that had happened in the last 3 hours that I might have missed.
And guess what? You didn't miss much.
I didn't miss anything. I just get to scroll for a little bit longer. And then I turn it to airplane mode before I go to bed so the next morning I can start without that phone. I know this is a huge change for a lot of people to try that. I think that that would make the biggest impact on happiness that you possibly could do.
I believe so too. Thank you so much. This was so inspiring. I really loved your tips. And the explanation of all the negative moods was really helpful. If you have one message or takeaway you'd love for our listeners to walk away with after this chat, what would that be?
My message is to accept your kids as they are. All they want is your approval and acceptance. All my kids want is my approval and my acceptance. They're good kids. The best that we can do as a parent is just love them as they are, how they are.
Unconditionally, right?
Unconditionally. My mom always gave that to me, and it was the greatest gift I ever got.
You're blessed. Thank you, Matt. As we wrap up, please tell people where they can connect with you, pick up your book, or learn more about your podcast.
Yeah, the book is on Amazon called Good Mood Revolution. And if, I know we're already listening to a top 5% podcast in the world right now on your podcast, Billy. You're top 5% in the world. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know you're in top 2.
And if someone is looking for a podcast that talks just about how to be happy every week, my podcast is called Good Mood Revolution. And you can join us once a week just to get a little bit of happiness too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode with Matt O'Neill. I hope you found his insights on building happiness and navigating bad moods as helpful and inspiring as I did. As we head into the holiday season, let's spread a little extra light and joy. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a reminder that happiness is a skill we can all strengthen. Whether it's a fellow parent, a friend, or a loved one, sharing this recipe for happiness could make a real difference in their home this holiday season. I wish you and your family a joyful, peaceful Christmas filled with connection and love. Until next time.